Bibliophiles of the internet, today I'm here to share a few books I would like to read during my recovery. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my last video where I explain more about how I'm going to be going on a brief medical hiatus to recover from surgery, which actually may or may not be happening as we speak if I put this up on my usual upload dates. Secondly, yes, I am in a different location right now. I am house sitting, dog sitting, sitting in this wonderful new chair that my sister got, so that means I had to transport books and filming equipment all the way here just to film this. Anyways, I'm gonna have plenty of time to read during my recovery stage. I'm sure it's not the only thing I'm gonna be doing, of course, and I have an ongoing list of possibilities on my phone that is absolutely too ambitious, and these are just a handful of those options. So let's get into it. First up is a book I will definitely be reading though because it comes out in May from MCD Books. It's one of my most anticipated releases that I actually requested and received last year, and that is Sing Her Down by Ivy Pochoda. This was described as like a modern take on a spaghetti western, which already has me sold, but then it was comped as No Country for Old Men meets Killing Eve and a feminist western thriller, and after hearing that, I blacked out. It's about a prisoner named Florida who's brought to a women's prison in Arizona where she meets her cellmate, Diosmary Sandoval, who knows that Florida is not as innocent as she claims to be. Dios knows the truth about Florida's crimes. She knows that she was not a victim of circumstance, but rather serving a sentence that she very much deserves, and she is determined to open Florida's eyes and unleash her true darkness. But when both of them unexpectedly get released from their sentences and regain their freedom, Dios's obsession with Florida deepens and their relationship turns into a dangerous cat-and-mouse chase, taking them from Arizona to the streets of Los Angeles. I'm super excited about this. I have been for quite some time. I discovered towards the end of last year that I like westerns and I'm into feminist crime stories if they have an interesting hook or edge. I actually connected with Ivy's editor to request this, and I mentioned in my email pitch that I really enjoyed both The Best Bad Things by Katrina Carrasco and The Thousand Crimes of Ming Su by Tom Lin. Usually when you're requesting a book over email, the most you get back is a simple yes, I can send you that, or radio silence, which is rejection. But the mention of those two titles really sparked a good conversation because Ming Su was on the editor's TBR and she's also actually Katrina's editor as well, which I had not known. So because of that connection, she gave me an emphatic yes, and she also sent me another book because of that conversation, which I'm not going to mention today, but is also very high on my list of possibilities. Next up, I have Several People Are Typing by Calvin Kasulk. I don't actually know if that's how you say the author's surname, but I just took a run at it and tried my best. This is sort of a blend between satire, speculative fiction, and absurdist fiction, and it's told through Slack messages. We're following Gerald, a mid-level employee at a PR firm whose consciousness has been uploaded to the company's internal Slack channels. But all of his coworkers just assume that he's pulling an elaborate prank of some kind by taking advantage of the company's new work-from-home policy. Terrified that he's going to be doomed to a disembodied life online, Gerald tries to enlist one of his coworkers to help him escape. But the longer he stays in the void, the more alluring and absurd his new reality becomes. Carmen Maria Machado has an exquisite blurb on the front of this book that says, "An absurd, hilarious romp through the haunted house of late-stage capitalism," which I think just proves that she is too good at writing blurbs. This has been on my TBR for quite some time, but it definitely became a higher priority when I realized that the author is trans, because I love supporting trans authors, of course. And I could be wrong, but I think Sage also recommends this. I love satire, I love experimental fiction, I love stories that really explore unconventional structures and formats, and because of the format, I think it's going to be a quick read as well, which is definitely a big plus. Now, I'm a mood reader for the most part, an organized mood reader I like to call myself, and right now I'm really wanting to get into some dark fiction, dark fantasy. I don't know why that is. No, that's a lie. I know why it is, but that information is between me and... Nope, that's the end of the sentence. Anyways, I just wanted to mention that because I think you're going to see a theme across the next few books. First, in that sort of vein, I'm really psyched to get into Lone Women by Victor LaValle. This is LaValle's latest release. It's a mixture of literary horror and historical fiction, and we're following a character named Adelaide who carries this huge steamer trunk with her wherever she goes. This trunk is under lock and key. It never opens under any circumstances because every time the trunk opens, people around Adelaide seem to vanish. So whatever secret she's harboring is the reason her parents were actually killed, which forces her to flee across the country to Montana, where she plans to take advantage of the government's offer of free land for anyone who can tame it. But of course, Adelaide is not really one of these lone women the government is trying to appeal to because she is very much not alone. And the secret she's desperately trying to lock away might be the only thing that will help her survive. Listen, I already know Victor Laval is going to knock this out of the park. I don't need to be convinced. I don't even need to read it to know that, but I do need to read this to find out what is in the trunk. So many early reviewers absolutely love this. A lot of mutuals whose reading tastes tend to overlap with mine also had stellar reviews for this, so I just really want to read it and join those effusive voices. Then we have a recent and somewhat unexpected addition to my TBR, which is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. When this first came out, I had no intention of reading it. It did not catch my attention whatsoever, and I honestly could not have picked it out from the hundreds of white girl YA fantasies. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't act like you don't. But then one of my best friends read it for an in-person book club, I think, not by choice, and they ended up loving it and saying how it was a gothic fantasy where a girl romances death. I'm a very simple person sometimes, and that tagline just speaks to all of my sensibilities. So it's about a 19-year-old girl named Signa who was orphaned as an infant and has been raised by a string of guardians ever since, who all have met some kind of strange and untimely demise. Now her last remaining relatives are the Hawthorns, an eccentric family living in a gloomy estate, and they're mourning their late matriarch while also grappling with the fact that the daughter of the family is afflicted by the same illness. But when the mother's spirit confronts Signa, she claims she was actually poisoned and did not die of natural causes. So now Signa's best chance of uncovering the culprit is to form an alliance with Death himself, the man she hates the most who has never been far from her side. I do have to say that the UK edition has a quote on the back that says, "Your name is no curse, little bird. I just like the taste of it." And I'm very much into that. I know I was just joking about white girl YA fantasy, but there is one of those series that I do unapologetically, unabashedly love, and that is the Cruel Prince trilogy, which is why I have to include The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This is the beginning of a new duology set in the world of the Cruel Prince. It's following a familiar face from the original trilogy, Oak, but it's actually told from the perspective of a new character. So it begins with Lady Nor from the Court of Teeth, who's using an ancient relic to create monsters who will do her bidding and exact her revenge for a horrific battle that the Court of Teeth lost. Sorin is her daughter and the only one with the power to stop her mother, but she fled to the human world long ago where she lives feral in the woods, spending her time releasing humans from foolish magical bargains and really saving them from themselves. Believing herself forgotten, she's taken by surprise when a storm hag hunts her down in the streets, and she's rescued by none other than Oak, who she was once betrothed to and has resented for years. I don't need to know anything else. I know it involves some kind of quest, manipulation, dark magic, all the things I loved about the original Folk of Air books, so I'm going into it open-minded and hoping to enjoy it. Then I have been showing a Herculean amount of restraint by not yet having read The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chokshi. This is Roshni Chokshi's latest release. It's her adult debut, her gothic-infused dark fantasy story about a marriage between a man who believes in fairy tales and an incredibly beautiful, mysterious woman who promises him her love in exchange for a promise that he will never look into her past. But when she learns that her estranged aunt is dying, they're forced to return to her childhood home known as the House of Dreams, where the bridegroom will finally be tempted to break that promise. I know I keep saying this, but I don't need to know anything else. Very rarely do I need to fully understand a synopsis for a Roshni Chokshi book to be sold on it. I will read pretty much anything she writes at this point. She absolutely won me over with the Star-Touched Queen duology, which is immaculate, and then of course she obliterated everything I hold dear and believe to be true about myself with the Gilded Wolves books. So I'm ready for her to ruin me in new and exciting ways. Another book I've been really wanting to try for quite some time is The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor. This is supposed to be a unique blend of sci-fi, spec fic, and even mixing in elements of maybe thriller or horror in its social commentary. It's basically imagining a timeline where humans discover highly intelligent life in a sentient species of octopus. This species has somehow developed hyper-intelligence. They have their own language and culture and belief system, and the story follows a marine biologist who is willing to do anything to study these creatures up close. Scientists are trying to walk the fine line of basically exploiting this species' knowledge since they hold the key to what could be unprecedented scientific and technological breakthroughs, while also trying not to incite their wrath. And I'm sure that's going to go extremely well for them. What scratches my brain about this story is that it's kind of plausible because octopi are already known for being incredibly intelligent, and they kind of already terrify me without having access to speech and complex thought. So I have no idea where this story is going to go, but I really want to find out. And last but certainly not least in this sampling of possibilities, I have my arc of The Beautiful Something Else by Ash Van Otterloo. Ash is the author of Cattywampus, so if you recognize their name, it's most likely from that. This is their upcoming queer middle grade story about a non-binary character named Sparrow who's struggling to try and be the perfect child, to get good grades and stay out of trouble, especially because their mother is on the verge of falling apart. But when their mom's attempts to cope spiral out of control, Sparrow is sent to live with other family on a sprawling estate full of interesting new neighbors. And for the first time in their life, they don't want to try to fit in. And even their own shadow has stopped following the rules. Again, this is pretty much a definite read for me. It comes out in May and I would love to read it before it releases. It sounds like it has some elements of magic or fantasy while also playing into those aspects of mental illness and being closeted. It definitely sounds like it's going to be heart-wrenching in some ways, but also with the potential to be incredibly cathartic and powerful as well. So I look forward to reading it soon. So that's pretty much it. As I said before, those are just a handful of books I have on my radar that I would love to read. Again, my main focus is going to be recovering, of course, and that might take the form of things that are not reading. But I am a reader through and through, so it's nice to have some books to look forward to either way. If there's any of these you definitely want me to read or that sound especially exciting to you, definitely let me know down below in the comments. And again, feel free to share good vibes and well wishes if you have any to spare because I could definitely use those. But that is everything I had to share for today. Stick around because I will be back before you know it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, whenever that may be, educate yourself, be kind to yourself, take care of yourself, and I will catch you on the flip side of the page.